just made the list.
The doctor will see you now.
I'm better than you, and you know it.
Hello and welcome to Around the Ring. This is episode number 265. I am one half of your host team, Steve, and with me is Justin. How's it going today, Justin?
I'm very tired, but I am here.
Yeah. So, another big week in wrestling. G1 Climax is still going on. We're going to talk pretty heavy about that, kind of give some updates and just kind of talk about that in general. And then we've got a couple of things to talk about happened in Dynamite and Rampage. And then you actually went to a local promotion last night, right?
Yeah, it was a PWX show, and it was a really good show, and I have quite a bit to talk about from that.
Oh, great. So we'll have some stuff to talk about. We do got a couple of pieces of news to mention here. Recently, Impact has announced that they are introducing a new championship. It is called the Impact Digital Media Championship. So kind of an odd name there. But there's going to be a tournament at Bound for Glory where the inaugural champion will be crowned in a 6-way match. Bound for Glory, of course, is October 23rd in Las Vegas. Looking like that's going to be a pretty good card. So the tournament is not at Bound for Glory. The champion will be crowned at this article is kind of confusing because it says the tournament's going to begin Tuesday on Impact. So I guess there's going to be, I'm not sure how this is going to work. I guess it's going to culminate in a 6-way match.
Are they going to do a tournament to determine who's going to be
in the tournament? That's what it sounds like. Yeah. Because the first match is this Tuesday, which isn't even a normal Impact day. Impact happens on Thursday. So it looks like it's only on Impact Plus. And it's going to be John Schuyler versus Zicky Dice.
Oh, okay.
And then the following day, Hernandez will take on Crazy Steve. Okay, these are not names I'm really familiar. I mean, I know who John Schuyler is, but other names I've not really familiar with.
I think Zicky Dice was a recently released NXT guy. I'm not 100% sure, but like he went by Zicky Dice, signed to NXT, and then was dropped. So I don't know what his NXT name was, but he wasn't there very long.
So not a whole lot of information about what the point of this new championship belt is. I mean, they've got two now. They've got the heavyweight championship, and then they've got the X division. Of course, they've got the Knockouts championship and then the tag belts. But
it seems like it's their version of the TNT championship or like a television championship.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Digital Media Championship.
It's not a great name. I wonder if they were trying to avoid the Internet Championship because isn't that
that
Cardona's title?
Yeah, that's right. Which he actually just lost.
Yeah.
So not much in the way of news. The only other couple of things that happened this week, AEW had a couple of new signings at one of the. I want to say it was Dark, but I honestly can't remember if it was Dark or if it was Elevation. But they announced the signing of Kiera Hogan. Speaking of Impact, she was really great in Impact, and she is now on AEW. And then the other signing was announced on Dynamite. It was actually announced by himself, and that would be Leo Rush. Thoughts on that one?
You know, I'm kind of excited for this. I'm a fan of Leo Rush. I think he was one of the wrestlers who I first noticed when I started watching Ring of Honor that like really got me kind of hooked on the program. And then like I've just kind of like always kept an eye on like where he is in his career. His WWE run was lackluster, of course. They decided to stick him in the managerial role for Bobby Lashley. But even then, he did do a good job at some of those promos. So it was just more the material he was given.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest backlash, I guess you could say, that this whole signing is getting is the fact that he doesn't really stay long wherever he goes.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because the gimmick seems to be another money gimmick, kind of like he's the LBO, leveraged buyout. I've yet to see what that means, but
yeah.
He seems like a creative person. I've seen some of his independent work prior to him joining NXT and WWE.
Yeah,
and he has good ideas. So I'm waiting to see how this plays out.
Yeah. Cool. So that's really it we have for news. Excuse me. A little late in the show, we're actually going to our top 5 list this week is not really a top 5 list in the traditional sense. It's just kind of a 5 wrestlers from WWE that we would like to see switch over to AEW. So we'll get into that later. But first, I kind of want to hear about the match you went to last night.
Oh, sure. Let me pull up the card for that real quick. It was a PWX show and PWX Premier Wrestling Experience. It's a Charlotte-based wrestling promotion. Most famous for being the East Coast promotion that works closely with New Japan whenever they were doing their US shows. Like, I think the very first East Coast show was a Charlotte show from New Japan. And I think it was like one of those New Beginning shows they did a few years ago. And PWX is kind of the ones who like put it together and provided some of the local talent. So they're really good promotion. I'd compare them to. They're an interesting promotion. They're very focused on a lot of local wrestlers, but they also bring in bigger names to kind of like bump up the shows. And the big names on this one is the reason why I was really excited to go.
Yeah.
But it's funny. The audience mostly seems more interested in the regular the regular talent that shows up. So it's a unique little promotion.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
So the show was called All Hail the King. And I showed up. So I worked all day yesterday and then had to drive an hour and a half to the venue. So I got there after the first match started, which was Wheeler Yuta versus Sir Rios Badu. I didn't get to see very much of it. It was basically the end of the match. Yuta actually lost that match, surprisingly. I guess, giving to the local talent. Continuing down the card, there were a lot of good matches on here. Some good storylines. There's a few surprise appearances, but there are 4 really big matches that I really wanted to talk about. The first being Savannah Evans was set to face off against Killer Kelly. And Killer Kelly, I believe, is like a former NXT wrestler as well. I think she had like braids. That was like kind of her. She was like a tough kind of fighter gimmick. I think she was released not too long ago. Savannah Evans, though, you'll probably recognize from Impact Wrestling. Mm-hmm. She's the cannibal Savannah Evans.
Yeah.
And so Killer Kelly was not cleared to wrestle because it looked like she had a black eye. So I don't know if they were worried about a concussion or something along those lines. So she was given the surprise opponent, Montana Black. He is a local wrestler for PWX. Really big guy. So it was a really cool little intergender match. Savannah Evans has had quite a few of those in PWX. She's a really imposing figure, so like she holds her own very well in the ring against guys bigger than her. It was a really good match. When you watch her, you're like, yeah, she's like potentially can be huge in the future. Impact saw something with her by signing her to a contract there. I wouldn't be surprised if other companies took notice whenever her Impact deal was up too. She's really, really good. She wound up losing the match, unfortunately, and then Killer Kelly attacked her at the end. So obviously setting up an actual match with those two in the future. The next really big match that I really enjoyed was Lance Archer versus JD Drake, and two AEW people there. JD Drake is in the Wingmen alongside Ryan Nemeth and Peter Avalon. I was trying to think of who the third member. No, Cesar Bononi. Yeah, one of the Wingmen. And then Lance Archer, big deal in AEW. So in AEW, JD Drake doesn't get a lot of time to shine. And in fact, he doesn't really dress like how he does on the independent scene. On the independent scene, he's basically an Arn Anderson clone. He's the old school. I think he calls himself the New Age Enforcer. He wears the satin jacket to the ring. So he wears boots that kind of look like cowboy boots. They have like that top ridge. And he wrestles very much like Arn Anderson. He's a heavy guy.
Yeah.
That match was really good. It was just a really fun, hard-hitting match. Archer is kind of known for throwing his opponents around. JD Drake's a bigger guy, so there were a couple spots where he's like, "Oh, he's not gonna be able to do that maneuver." Like what's that crucifix like over the shoulder bomb that he does?
Yeah,
he got him set up for it, but it didn't follow through with it. It was a good match. Lance wound up winning, but then at the very end, he got to cut a promo talking about how he's got a ladder match on Dynamite next week, and when he wins that, he's going to go beat Kenny Omega. And then when he beats Kenny Omega to become the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, he said he hopes JD Drake is first in line to come fight him. Obviously, I don't think any of us believe that Lance Archer is going to beat Kenny Omega anytime soon, but
yeah,
it was a nice little way of, even though he won the match, he made a point to put over JD Drake and his home crowd, who the home crowd really loves him. He's a really talented wrestler. I love watching his matches.
Cool.
There are two other matches. This featuring some New Japan alum. So this next match was Lucky Ali versus Robbie Eagles, and Robbie Eagles is the current New Japan IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. A fact I actually forgot until he came out to the ring carrying that championship. So it's pretty cool to see the IWGP Championship in the United States up close at my local promotion. This was the high flyer match. Robbie Eagles is a pretty entertaining, fast-paced, acrobatic wrestler. And Lucky Ali, he's another local wrestler who he has a really great look. He's really acrobatic, really well-defined physique for a smaller guy, because a lot of times you'll go to an independent show and not everyone has a super defined physique, and he looks really good. He's one of those guys where he's gonna get scooped up. I think he's fairly new to wrestling. There were a couple spots in the match that were a little iffy, but they told a really good story focusing on the leg of Lucky Ali. And there was actually a really cool spot where Lucky Ali went to do a top rope maneuver, and then Robbie Eagles basically catches his leg in midair and then puts in a submission move, and that's how Robbie wins that match. And last, but certainly not least, we had Anthony Henry against Minoru Suzuki. So Suzuki was the main reason why I wanted to go to this show, and then the rest of the card being padded out later, I was like, oh, this is a really good show. I definitely want to make sure I go to it.
Yeah.
But just seeing Suzuki in person was 100% the reason why I wanted to go.
Yeah.
This was a homecoming for Anthony Henry. He is another one of the wrestlers who signed a deal with NXT, maybe made like a handful of appearances, and then was cut in the last round of NXT releases. I don't remember what name he actually went by in NXT because I never saw any of his appearances. He wasn't there very long, but he's actually a really good wrestler. He was the PWX World Champion for a pretty extended period of time. I want to say he held it for over a year, but he also wrestled for Evolve, where he was really good there. But the crowd was there for Suzuki. You know, we all got to sing along to his theme song.
Yeah.
And it may be the best wrestling match I've seen live in person. It was just, it's a really good Suzuki match, just hard hitting, a lot of like chops and slaps across the chest.
Yeah.
Just these really like stiff kicks. They traded penalty kicks against each other. He does these really fun things where he'll just like, he'll yell at his opponent in the match and like tell him to come on and, hit him again and, smiling and laughing whenever he gets hit really hard. Like classic Suzuki material.
Yeah.
It was such a good match. It felt like they went about 20 minutes. A lot of back and forth. Really good match. Really, really excellent. It's one of those matches where I would actually probably go out of my way to try and rewatch it again. I believe you can watch their stuff online. They do like sort of like you just purchase it online and watch it. It's like $15 usually. But I'm definitely going to try and watch that again because that match was so good. After the match, Suzuki won. He got the microphone. He spoke to the crowd. He apologized that he was Japanese and couldn't speak English. But it was so good. The crowd loved seeing him. I had a blast. He's been on this tour of the United States. I guess I don't know if he wasn't going to be considered for the G1 this year, and that's why he decided to just come to the States for this time period. Because I think there was not last year, but the year before, he wasn't involved in the G1, and he was very upset that he wasn't involved. And so I don't know what led him to timing this at the same time, but
yeah,
they could have used him in the G1 this year because G1's a little light on some superstars this year, from my personal tastes.
Possibly. But, I mean, yeah, being really new to the G1 and really, I mean, as I mentioned on social media, quite the novice when it comes to New Japan. But we're going to talk about G1 a little bit, kind of give some updates and talk about some matches. But let's talk about this week's Dynamite. Really the match of the night, I think, was Adam Cole versus Jungle Boy.
I'd agree.
They started that Dynamite out pretty strong with that matchup. I think it was a good, solid match. I kind of think that it looked like one of those matches where there was still a lot left in the tank when it came to the end. But of course, Cole gets the win at the end, and then but he made Jungle Boy look good. Not that Jungle Boy needs Adam Cole to make him look good because he already looks good. But I think with two phenomenal wrestlers up against each other, they made each other look good. Or look better. Let's put it that way. Made each other look better. And that was a good match. It was a good match for Dynamite. I think one of the highlights of this week's Dynamite, and you're seeing a lot of the memes, was the brutal tongue lashing that Cody Rhodes got from Arn Anderson. I mean, essentially, Arn Anderson severed ties with Cody Rhodes because it all boiled down to he didn't want to be associated with a loser anymore. But it was entertaining. It was a great spot where Arn Anderson, the memes that you're going to see are in regards to his comment about the Glock. And it was, I've even seen some posts out there talking about the Glock incident. But that was an interesting little back and forth there. Really be interested in seeing where this goes. Is he severing ties with just Cody or with the entire Nightmare family? I mean, I got to imagine Dustin's probably going to side with his brother on this, but I don't know if Cody does turn heel, which at this point, I don't really see why he wouldn't.
Yeah, it's been pretty obvious that the audience has kind of turned on him. I think people just want to see him as a heel. I think he works better as a heel. I mean, he did really good in those programs with Nick Aldis and his brother, with Dustin.
Right.
Those were really wonderful programs. And he played a great babyface in those roles. But I think people want to see him kind of go in a heel direction.
Yeah, I agree.
And this could be the way to do it. I mean, Arn's been a heel in the past too, so there's no reason to say that, like, maybe Cody turns up the intensity. Maybe he gets a little bit more focused, and then that's when he and Arn kind of patch things up.
Yeah, maybe they patch things up. That's what I was going to say. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I guess like the main event was the TNT Championship match between Sammy Guevara and Miro. I was actually really surprised that Guevara took the belt from Miro. He was not the person I was thinking was going to take his belt. So it was a bit of a surprise. And the match wasn't bad. It was actually a good match. But it was nowhere near good as Adam Cole and Jungle Boy. And it didn't really seem like a championship caliber match.
Yeah, I was disappointed with the outcome. I'm not the biggest Sammy Guevara fan. He's talented for sure in the ring. He's a very good wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really crazy about his promos and mic skill. He also works better as a heel, and the inner circle's kind of this weird. I guess they're kind of baby faces right now.
Yeah, it's kind of strange how that's gone.
I wouldn't have taken it off Miro yet. I still think it's too soon. I mean, though, at the same time, Miro is now at this point where he doesn't need a championship. Like, these promos are absolutely incredible.
Well, now he can't do the God's favorite champion anymore.
That's true. But he can still talk about being the Revelator and
the Redeemer.
That's and I think he'd still be talking about his God and his wife. Those are some great little promos. I mean, there's always a chance too Miro takes it back.
That is true. Well, that all depends on what happens next week when Sammy wrestles Bobby Fish. Now, is that a championship match?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen if the match is a championship win or not. I'd be surprised if it was. That seems awful quick.
Yeah. I don't know. Especially
what do you think they're going to do with Bobby Fish? Do you think he's going to actually join the company, or is this one of those kind of tryouts that they sort of been doing, like kind of like the Kiera Hogan thing, where she had matches but didn't get signed until weeks later? I lost you, I think. Well, somehow I've lost Steve, I believe. Not sure. Sorry for the technical difficulties, folks. Trying to see if he's going to find his way back online or if it's just my end of things. Not entirely sure. While we're waiting on him, I guess I could talk about Bobby Fish a little more. I really enjoy Bobby Fish. I loved seeing Red Dragon. I genuinely hope he signs with AEW, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. I don't know. He does have a good relationship with Adam Cole, so there's a good chance he may show up. And it looks like Steve's Wi-Fi went out. So I'm hosting solo, it seems like. I guess I'll throw in my 2 cents about the Adam Cole and Jungle Boy match. I too really enjoyed the match. I thought it was the best match on AEW this week. Unfortunately, my week has been rather hectic, so I did not get a chance to watch Rampage this week. Really, if it wasn't for the PWX show, I wouldn't have had a ton to talk about, honestly, this week. But yeah, Adam Cole and Jungle Boy was excellent. He was Steve's right. It did seem like it was one of those matches where they had more in the tank and maybe they're saving it for later. I think they should run this match back again. Maybe not right away. Give it a little time to breathe, but it was a really enjoyable match. The Cody match that he mentioned earlier too was the Cody and Lee Johnson versus Matt Sydal and Dante Martin match. So they're telling the story where Dante Martin and Matt Sydal have been like teaming up. I think Matt is supposed to be like lending his knowledge and experience to Dante. And Dante is just an incredible wrestler. He does things in the ring that I've seen very few wrestlers do. His skill is way beyond his experience at this point. I do think he may wind up being one of the bigger homegrown stars for AEW, but just all around, like he's an already incredible wrestler. With the Sammy and Miro match, I was disappointed to see Miro lose the title. It just seemed a little too soon. But also at the same time, I think since the show was originating from Rochester, they did want to do something with the TNT title because Brody did kind of make that title really special whenever he held it. It was a very exciting little period where he was the TNT champion there. And, they actually retired the red strap after his passing. So I think they want to do something special with the TNT title. I personally would have ended the show on the Dark Order match where -1 and Amanda Huber made their appearance to help reunite the Dark Order. It was just the emotional kind of like core of the episode that I thought really, really should have been the thing that sent people home. I heard somewhere that Tony Khan always feels like the championship will go on last, so that's probably why they went with the TNT title last. But I think the audience would have appreciated the Dark Order reunion as the send out more. But overall, it was really good. I would have liked that moment to kind of like linger a little longer. But who knows? Maybe Dark Order is not done being fractured, and maybe we'll see a little bit more out of there. Hopefully, this material will be usable for Steve, and I'm not just talking into the dark by myself. And again, apologies for the technical difficulties. Another big moment from the show was the MJF promo that happened, where he basically was talking about the 4 pillars of AEW, and he was claiming that he, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Jungle Boy are the pillars of the future of AEW, and I agree that's probably true. It's really good promo. MJF went to some really dark places. Called out Darby Allin specifically because he's the only one that has beaten him. Hey, he's back.
And I'm back. Yes, the joys of technology, folks. Internet went out and I had to restart my router. That was fun.
Yeah. I talked a little about AEW. There may be some silences there you have to cut out, but
nah, we'll be good. So, what's the last thing you mentioned?
The last thing I talked about was MJF's promo about Darby Allin.
Oh, okay, yeah. Was that the promo where he was talking about the pillars?
Yes,
Okay,
the 4 pillars.
Yeah, that was actually a good promo. I mean, not surprisingly,
right?
If he can run, he can do a promo.
Yeah. You had a thought about Bobby Fish. You wanted to.
Yeah, I was saying that it would be while it would be weird because he's technically not signed with AEW. It'd be weird for him to take the belt. But by the same token, it seems like, they're breaking down these forbidden walls anyway. So it may be because it is AEW, it wouldn't be as weird.
Plus he has that connection with Adam Cole. I don't really see. I don't see Bobby taking the title. I don't know for sure if that match is a title match.
Yeah, I don't know either. I guess I could look that up. Let's see. AEW Dynamite. What day would that be? That would be 4 or 5. That would be 6, wouldn't it? 6.
Oh, it actually is a title match. So it's the anniversary episode.
Yeah, that would be the 6th. So let's see. Am I still on?
Yeah. You're still here for me.
Okay. My browser is not working. So let's check the old phone here. Let's see. Full card, start time, and how to watch. The anniversary. That's another thing is that this is actually going to be their anniversary show. So that'll be it says TNT Championship, but it doesn't say. No, yeah. Bobby Fish will enter the Forbidden Door to challenge newly crowned TNT champion Sammy Guevara for the belt.
Yeah. I wonder if this will be one of those matches where, like, after it, they'll say Bobby Fish is all elite.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. He just recently signed with MLW, so
they have a working relationship, though.
They do. So let's see. Rampage was Friday night. Last time you and I talked, you said you hadn't got a chance to see it yet. Have you seen it yet?
No, I have not seen Rampage this week.
Okay. There were only 3 matches. Really, the only one probably worth mentioning was Bryan Danielson and Nick Jackson. Now, I personally have never seen either one of these guys wrestle by themselves. I know that they have. I've read that they have and heard about it, but I've actually never seen it. So it was a little weird to see him by himself.
I've seen them wrestle independently in New Japan during the Best of the Super Juniors, which is another round robin tournament. So I've actually seen both of them wrestle as solo wrestlers.
Yeah.
Quite a bit on those
I've heard a lot about it, but I've never actually seen one. So it was a little weird, and it was a good match. Much like the Adam Cole Jungle Boy match, as good a match as it was, it seemed like there was a lot that could have been. There could have been more to it. Like they left something there in the tank, like I mentioned with the other match. But I don't really see much going forward with this particular matchup. I think this is just a matter of Brian going through the Super Clip guys.
Yeah.
And that's the overall angle.
I hope that leads to an Adam Cole Bryan Danielson match.
Oh, that'd be I would not I would not doubt it at all. I think that'd
be an excellent full gear match.
Yeah, it would. maybe that might be too soon, but yeah, I could totally see that. That'd be great. Yeah, I would almost want to go be there live for that one.
Yeah. How far are you? Is it Minneapolis they're doing it?
Yeah, it's about a 12-hour drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably won't go, but so yeah, that was I mean, yeah, there was I did watch Dark and Elevation, but there wasn't really anything super interesting to really highlight in any of those shows other than the signing of Kiera Hogan. Mm-hmm. But a lot of what I was watching this week was trying to get caught up with the G1 Climax. As I mentioned, I am super novice when it comes to New Japan, and this is actually the first time I've watched G1. So I was really just going in like completely ignorant of what it was, what this tournament is and whatnot. And I asked you a lot of questions about it. And there was actually a match. I want to say it was either day 5 or day 6, but the commentators actually it seems like they were talking to people like me.
Yeah.
That they just explained what it was. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm glad that they did that. Very glad. And, the commentators are actually pretty good at what they do.
Yeah. They do a really good job of explaining the story, especially for English viewers, because we miss so much from the promos.
Yeah. And that was one of the things I was going to talk to you about in regards to specifically the G1 tournament, but it might carry over into other New Japan stuff is how do you follow the angles and the storylines? Like, it seems like you go in there and I mean, obviously the wrestling itself is primo.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a little bit of the enjoyment of wrestling is also the storylines. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if it's just this tournament or if that's just in general, you just can't grasp what's going on there.
So New Japan is the epitome of a show not tell type of promotion.
Yeah.
So a majority, I'd say 75% of the story that they tell in their angles happens during the matches and not from spoken segments.
Yeah, all in ring. It's a lot like attending local promotions.
Yeah, very much so.
You've got to kind of watch. And I'm starting to understand that, but I didn't know if that was just because it's a tournament and these guys are just getting thrown together because they're getting thrown together, or if that was a New Japan thing, which is fine now that I understand it.
Yeah, it's definitely a New Japan thing. One of the interesting things about New Japan is a lot of their shows will have tag team matches on the lower card, and a lot of times that's where a lot of the story will build is in those tag team matches, because it'll be the same rough group of people because they have factions in New Japan,
right?
And so it'll usually be some combination of faction members facing each other for weeks on end, and that's where these angles are building. But I also highly recommend, if you have the time, New Japan does do, I think they're called backstage interviews or something along those lines.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those on the website, but I haven't watched any of them.
If you watch the ones, they may say they have English. I think they say they have English commentary on them. You should watch those because they will subtitle all their promos.
No, that'd be good. That would be great.
And you get a lot of really good stuff in those backstage segments too. There was a period, I think last year during the pandemic, I got more enjoyment from the backstage interviews than I did some of those no audience matches that they were doing in the beginning.
Yeah.
But watching New Japan is a full-time job. If you watch everything
really is. It really is. And I did figure out a trick. And on the website and it's regarding playback speed. You can actually change the playback speed, and you can make it like you can watch it at two times the speed, and it makes those 3.5 hour shows go a lot quicker. So what I started doing toward the last couple of days of trying to get caught up is I started watching some of the matches at 2 times, but if there was a match that I was really interested in watching, like actually watching, then I slowed it down. So in regards to keeping caught up, I am actually now only 1 day behind. I have watched up through day 8, which was October 1st. So I'm a little bit more ahead than I thought I would be.
You're way ahead of me because I have only watched the first 2 nights, and even then, I only watched a couple matches from those.
Yeah.
I went into this G1. It's funny. This is like maybe the 4th or 5th G1 I've watched, and this is also one of the only ones where I haven't attempted to watch every match.
Yeah.
So it's a little different for me personally.
I mean, I have mostly watched all of them. All of the matches. Well, okay. I will say that I didn't start watching from day 1. Saying I'm caught. I mean, I didn't start at. I said I'm caught up to day 8. I didn't start at day 7. I started earlier than that. But I didn't start at the very beginning. But I've watched most of all the matches either in double speed, or I have fast forwarded through a 2 that I just really were not interested in at all. Because there were a few of those, not a whole lot. But what
I would say this year's batch is not as exciting as in past years, and I think it even reflects in a lot of the reporting I've heard on other podcasts talking about it. They're just not, people are not as into this year's G1 as previous years.
I will say that there was a match on day 5, which was A block, that the match itself, it was good. It wasn't great. It wasn't phenomenal. It was good. But the participants, one such in particular, is really what got me, like this light went off in my head, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start watching New Japan because of this one. So you know who I'm talking about, and we've talked about this a bit, but I'm going to mention it. So there's this wrestler who started out when I first saw this wrestler. I want to say it was NXT. It might have been the Cruiserweight Classic, but I don't remember if he was actually in it or not. But it was right about. It might have been around. I don't remember, but I know I started watching him in NXT. Really liked him, and just like, where'd he go? I have no idea where he went. And so I'm watching this match and the entrances, and I'm looking at this. Like we were saying the other day, we were looking in through the who's in what block, and I'm like, I don't know most of these people. So who to watch, I have no idea. There's a couple names I know. There's a couple names I've heard but never seen wrestle. But this one I was like, that name sounds familiar, but I'm pretty sure I've never seen him wrestle. But this, the entrances, he comes in, and I'm like, my gosh, that guy looks familiar. Who is that? and as they go through and they announce him, they put on his name on the screen, and I'm like, my God, he looks familiar. And then the match starts, and the move set is just like, man, maybe I have seen this guy wrestle before. So I paused the match, and I jump over to my browser and Google up his name. And so for those of you that are waiting, we're talking about Kenta. I'd heard the name, no idea who he is, but I know him as Hideo Itami.
Mm-hmm.
Has been one of my favorite wrestlers. And then at least in my world, he just kind of disappeared and I had no idea where he went. And I didn't think to keep up with what he was doing, but he's been one of my favorite wrestlers. And so this was that light that went off. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to start getting into this and learning more about it because I want to watch him because he's awesome. So the match that I'm referring to was day 5. It was Kenta versus Ishii. Really good, solid match.
Oh, yeah.
And both of these guys they work well with each other and they really play off each other. And it was a great match to watch. And that one was really, for me, the highlight of day 5. There were probably some other matches out there that were better as far as the wrestling goes, but this one was just, I was really happy to see this guy wrestling again.
Yeah. When, if you had lost track of the WWE, you probably didn't see his comeback because he was plagued with injury in
He
NXT.
was. And I heard he did a comeback.
Mm-hmm. He came back. He appeared in like 205 Live, which was never a great spot for anybody.
Yeah, really.
But he made me tune in to like see his matches there, and he was good there. But again, it was 205 Live, so
right.
And he was released, and
yeah, and by that time, I mean, I'd heard he came back, but at that time, I was already kind of not interested in wrestling in general, and a lot of it, we've had this conversation, is just the fact that it was not a joy to watch WWE anymore.
Yeah,
and not until AEW came around did I really get interested in watching again. And had I known and had the wherewithal to get involved with watching New Japan, I probably would have still been watching wrestling. Had I known how great.
He's been back in New Japan for 2 years now.
Yeah.
He returned when audiences were still around. So he was brought in by Shibata, actually.
Okay.
He brought him in as kind of like his, since Shibata can't wrestle anymore, he was kind of brought in to be like that version of a wrestler for New Japan. Yeah. And then he wound up turning on Shibata and joining Bullet Club. Oh, I believe he had the briefcase too, it was the IWGP United States Championship briefcase, which he had a shot at, because I believe that was when Moxley was stuck here in the States.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so basically he was wrestling for the briefcase most nights. But he has had some good matches since coming back. He's in a good block. I haven't watched. I really want to watch his Shingo match, and I want to watch his Ishii match.
Yeah, I think his next match is against Great Okan.
Okay. Yeah. I did see his Toru Yano match. That was fun.
I'd have to say that the match I'm probably most looking forward to seeing him with is probably going to be the Ibushi match.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
But really, any of the matches going forward, I'm going to watch him in. Because I like him. So he won that one. Day 6, which was B block. And before I get into the match, I got to say B block is a little less exciting than A block matches, with the exception of 2 folks. I really don't care about the rest of this block. And a lot of this has to do with not knowing them, just not being invested in them. But it's got Okada, and it's got Tanahashi. But other than that, there's just not really much interest in that.
Who else is in that block? I need to pull that line up.
Sonata, Jeff Cobb, Taichi, Evil, Yoshihashi, Chase Owens, Tamatonga, and Goto.
Yeah. So yeah, that is not my favorite group there. I like Jeff Cobb. His best matches, depending on who he's with. Goto's one of those guys that's like, he's good in ring, but he doesn't do anything for me specifically.
Yeah.
Sonata is one of those guys that I like, but there is something he's got charisma, but at the same time, he doesn't have like the flash that some of his other, people in the block have. For the longest time, it seemed like Sonata was going to be kind of like the next big star, but he doesn't seem like he can ever turn it on to that next level. And then they wound up going with Evil before they even wound up went with Sonata by having Evil turn.
That was weird.
And of course, now Evil is just the guy who cheats in all of his matches.
Yeah. So on day 6, my favorite match was, which was the B block match or B block show, was Okada versus Yoshihashi. Now, I was listening to a podcast the other day that, from what I understand, they kind of specialize in New Japan stuff. And there was just one guy talking, but he really talked down on this match like it was this horrible match. And I really felt completely different. I mean, I thought, okay, so Yoshihashi was not amazing, but you've got Okada in there who is just, I mean, I obviously have not seen every match she's ever been in, but I've seen a good couple of handfuls of Okada matches. I haven't seen a bad one yet.
You didn't watch the year he spent refusing to do the Rainmaker.
I was reading about that, but yeah, I thought the match was fine, and it was my favorite match of that day. But yeah, I thought it was fine.
Oh yeah, Okada is like, so everyone always talks about like, Kenny Omega, he's the greatest wrestler in the world. He was in those matches where they got like 6 and 7 stars, on the Meltzer scale. Well, like Kenny Omega didn't wrestle those matches by himself.
Exactly. So yeah, this was a good match. I mean, Yoshihashi didn't bring a whole lot to it as far as entertainment wise, but Okada made him look probably better than he is. But it was a good match. It was good. Yeah. Day 7, which was another A block day. That one, I don't remember a whole lot about that day. As far as some of the people that I would have wanted to see. I don't, if I'm looking at the way it's set up, obviously not all of them wrestle every time it's their block's turn. Because I don't remember seeing Kenta on this day. I don't know.
They should be wrestling. I think Kenta's in the block where Naito was in.
Oh, that's what it is. That's why not everybody was wrestling.
Naito was injured in his first match with Zack Sabre Jr. That match was fantastic too. Yeah. I'm very sad to see that Naito was not going to continue. But the G1 is very grueling physically. Yeah. So, and Naito, I think, has needed kind of a rest for a while now. So,
yeah. So speaking of Sabre, that was actually the highlight match for me of day 7. Sabre was fighting Great Khan, and it was just interesting to watch. I wouldn't go out on a limb really and say that I am a Zack Sabre Jr. fan, but I cannot deny that he works well and he talks well.
Yeah. Honestly, I think his promos are the reason why I started liking him more.
Yeah. But
he has a style that I don't love, which he's modified it for New Japan, and it works better for me now than it did before.
Yeah. But the interesting thing about this match really was for Zack Sabre Jr., this marked 4 submission wins in a row.
Yeah, I mean, he's a submission specialist, so like that really makes sense for sure.
Yeah. There actually was another good match that day. I forgot about it because it was a really quick match, but it was entertaining. It was Kota Ibushi versus Yano. It was very entertaining, but it was really short.
Yeah.
It was over like that.
Yano matches can do that. Can I ask who won?
It was Kota Ibushi.
Oh, okay. Was a roll of tape involved in this match?
It was, and actually there was more involved. There was a point where Yano has the bag, and he put it over Ibushi's head, so he was blinded, and then he pushed him out of the ring and then rolled him up in the the ring, the ring apron. Yeah. He rolled him up at the ring apron and then dropped him on the floor. And then there was almost a count out because he was like a burrito almost. He couldn't get out, but he got out in the nick of time, got back in. And then after that, it was pretty much over.
Yeah.
Cause he took him out, but,
Yano matches, some people hate them. Like some people really hate Yano's matches. I find them hilarious. I think
it was entertaining.
Yeah, I think it's Yano's role in the G1 is to basically give his opponent a night off from a hard match. So
gotcha.
That's why they book him every single year. One, because he's a comedy match and it usually gets a really good reaction from the crowd. And his matches are not as hard. It's usually a bunch of like comedy spots and tape and getting rolled up, and I find them very amusing.
Yeah. So also on day 7, my notes are on 2 separate little sheets of paper. I misspoke earlier. Kenta actually was on this day.
Okay.
And this is another one I wrote down in my notes as highlights. He actually, in this one, Kenta fought Shingo.
Oh, okay.
And that, not just because it was Kenta, but that was probably match of the night for me. That was a really good match. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Shingo is the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, and I love his matches too. He's another one of those guys like Ishii that just has these hard hitting matches. And,
it was pretty brutal. It was a brutal match, and it was good. Kenta took the loss, but didn't matter. It was just a good match. And then the last day that I watched was day 8, which was October 1st. It was another B block day. And there actually were a couple of matches that were decent, that were good. Okada, a big surprise, versus Goto. We had mentioned Goto a little bit earlier. There isn't much to him. I didn't get a whole lot out of him, and I really think that. Now Okada took the win, but what is the word I'm looking for? It really seemed like Goto looked good on certain spots during the match, but I think Okada. I think a lot of it had to do with what is the term? There's a term for what wrestlers do. It's I want to say carpenter. Oh man, I'm gonna have to pull up a list of wrestling terms. It's a wrestler, a wrestler that makes another one look good, and that's pretty much what his job is. Glossary of wrestling terms. I'm gonna start with think of what. Carpenter, a term for a wrestler whose purpose it is to use their in-ring abilities to make their opponents look as good and strong as possible. So obviously I don't think Okada's job is to make Goto look good, but in this match, it seems like he did a lot of work to make Goto look good.
I've never heard the term carpenter applied to wrestling. That's funny.
I don't remember where I heard it, but I heard it once, and yeah. But that was a good match, primarily because it was Okada, really. Because Goto, there wasn't much to him.
I think this is Okada's year. I think Okada was going to win this year, and he may wind up taking back the IWGP at Wrestle Kingdom. I could see that happening. It's been a while since it's been Okada. It's time to shine,
as far as A Block goes, as much as I would like to see Kento win A Block, he's not going to win A Block.
Yeah, he's had really good matches at the Dome, but yeah, I don't see it being Kento's time. No,
I wonder if he'll be at Kingdom this year.
Most likely.
I guess that'd be next year. The other match for day 8 that was good was Tanahashi versus Sonata. And,
they've had a lot of matches in the past, so this one was a good one.
Yeah, Tanahashi is definitely a New Japan wrestler that I didn't know anything about, but definitely is going to be somebody to watch.
He is, for the longest time, people called him the John Cena of New Japan. Oh, yeah. So he was very much the guy for a very extended period of time. Primarily like the late 2000s and early 2010s, he was like the number one guy in the company. Mm-hmm. I think he's more well liked in Japan than John Cena is here, but
yeah,
and I think he's a better wrestler, of course, too. But
yeah, definitely. So that's as far as I got with G1. We'll try to keep on track with some sort of updates every week here until it's over with. I'm not going to make any predictions yet, but we did mention offline. We did actually mention about making one of our top 5 lists in the near future. 5 wrestlers that we'd like to see wrestle in the G1 Climax from any promotion.
Yeah, not just any promotion. I think that'd be a fun little discussion.
That will be a fun one. And on that note, we do have we'll keep calling it a top 5, but this isn't, at least on my end, I didn't really put them in any specific order as far as who I would like to see over. I just wrote down 5 guys and said, these are 5 guys that are in WWE that I'd like to see them leave a WWE and go to AEW. So we don't necessarily have to. I don't know if you did a by, according to Hoyle definition, top 5 list, but
yeah,
you can do it however you want. So,
right.
All right.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So, starting with my top 5 WWE wrestlers, men. We specifically said male wrestlers on this one.
Yes.
That we would like to see up here in AEW. And I'm going to go with this one first because it's kind of been rumored already. So, Kevin Owens.
Okay. That doesn't surprise me. You said that. I mean, I guess I'll just go ahead and say it. He is also on my list.
Yeah, right.
He
seems like a great fit. We know his contract's coming up soon. This would be if he were to enter AEW, we could have a reunion of the Mount Rushmore team, which is Adam Cole and the Young Bucks. Which honestly, if that happens, I'd see them like separating from the Elite entirely and just being those four. But
yeah.
I wanted to go with him first just because like it's already kind of rumored that he may go. We still don't know what's going to happen for sure, but
we don't. So yeah, he's on my list. So you can go with your second one now.
Okay.
Because I don't really have an order of mine.
Next, I'm going to go with a guy who's just been misused. Keith Bearcat Lee, if his new nickname Bearcat, which I don't understand. It's a reference to some other wrestler, but does not fit his persona whatsoever. This guy, he had a great NXT run. Vince McMahon clearly does not know what to do with him and refuses to utilize his true strengths and gives him nothing to do. He's one of those guys where it's just like, you got to get out of there, man.
Does that surprise you? I mean,
yeah, I feel like he's been mishandled more than most.
Yeah. I mean, Vince just doesn't know what to do with a lot of guys that are good. No. And it's like they get called up. You almost want to go, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first name that I thought of when I was writing down this list is somebody that, yes, I want to see this person go to AEW. He will never go to AEW because he has specifically said when his contract expires, he's retiring. And that would be AJ Styles. I would love to see him in some matches with some of those young guys. I'd love to see him in a match against CM Punk.
Did that ever happen?
I don't remember. I think, and I could be completely wrong and probably am, but I think he came in right after CM Punk left.
Yeah, in WWE for sure. I was trying to think if they did anything in Ring of Honor, maybe.
I don't know. I didn't watch AJ in Ring of Honor. I didn't start watching AJ until he went to TNA.
I see. Okay, yeah, they did wrestle in Ring of Honor, it looks like.
Okay, so yeah, I've never seen him in that one, but yeah, I'd like to see them. But I'd like to see AJ Styles in AEW, but it will never happen. So This is really just a dream list. So who's the third guy on your list?
I'm gonna go with Tommaso Ciampa.
Okay.
So, I love his work in NXT. Wow. I think he's done so well in that company. He's one of like the few guys that really does really well over there. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, now with this 2.0, his future's kind of uncertain. He's the current champion, but who knows what will happen going forward with him there. But I also realized too that he's a guy that I've never seen wrestle anywhere else. I know he has wrestled in other companies prior to NXT, but like I personally have never watched any of those matches. I know he's in PWG a lot, so like he knows those guys. So I want to see this version of Ciampa, just to face off with those names over there in
I can see that
in AEW. Like I think we don't really need to see him and Adam Cole again. They fought so many times in the past. We don't need to see it again. But I would love to see him fight Kenny Omega. I'd like to see him in a match with, Bryan Danielson, because I don't think we've even seen that.
No, I don't think we have. There's a lot of people I'd like to see him in a ring with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't think about him, and I really hope he doesn't get called up.
Yeah.
Next character wrestler on my list is, now that I'm looking at the name, I think, I'm not even sure if he would fit in AEW. He might. But again, I don't think he will ever leave WWE, but I'm putting him on my list anyway, and that's Rey Mysterio.
Well, you know what? Wasn't he supposed to be at All In?
I thought he was. Was he not?
He was gonna fight Liger? Jushin Thunder Liger?
Did he not? I
think he got injured.
I can't.
I think that's the story there. So there was a potential there, and I do think it was one of those. The WWE was like, "Oh no, we need to get Ray back over here." I think he was supposed to wrestle at All In, the original.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't remember. It seems like it's been a while since I've that's what, like 2-3 years ago now. Well, no, I guess that's about 2 years ago. No, it was 3 years ago. It was September 2018 when All In was. Yeah, I don't remember a lot about it.
You know what? It may not have been an All In show. I think it was the New Japan Ring of Honor Madison Square Garden show.
Okay. Yeah. But he's the third guy on my list.
He's worked everywhere, so I would say never say never with him.
Sure. Who's your number 4?
I'm gonna go with Kyle O'Reilly.
Okay.
It just seems like it's the natural fit,
mm-hmm.
with his history of Ring of Honor, PWG, NXT. His friends are now in AEW. It seems likely that he'll wind up there at some point. I think he'd be a good fit there. We'd get some really good matches out of him for sure.
Yeah, I could totally see that. If we were doing a 10, he definitely would be on my list. But as I was making this list, it got to a point where I was like, oh man, I want to see him too. Oh, I want to see him too. Oh man, I want to see him too. Man, there's just too many guys. But I had to shrink it down. Next guy on my list is Finn Balor.
I considered him, yeah, especially like his rock and rolla, the last rock and roll or the real rock and rolla gimmick that he's doing. Yeah, he'd fit really well.
You know what I think would be very interesting. I don't know how well a fit would be, but I think it would be an interesting if he were to team up as a tag team with Malachi Black as the Demon.
That'd be interesting. I do think he has said before that he does not actually like doing the Demon anymore.
Oh, okay.
I think that WWE kind of ran that into the ground for him because originally in New Japan, like he did do the body paint thing, but it wasn't like a demon. It was more of just body paint.
Yeah.
I was enjoying his work in NXT right before he came back to the main roster. The kind of like classic Bullet Club style.
Yeah.
Finn Balor, Prince Devitt there.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him go back to New Japan too.
That'd be good. You got one more, don't you?
Yep, one more, and that is Samoa Joe. He's currently out because of not being cleared medically, but I think if he were in another company, he would be wrestling. I think it's just WWE being extra sensitive with him.
See, I wouldn't mind that. I'd actually like to see him go back to Impact.
He'd be a good fit there. I mean, he'd do a good job there. And even if he doesn't wrestle like all the time, if he's just kind of like a special attraction guy, I'd be fine with that. I just want to like see him out there talking, And
as I say that, who's to say he can't do both?
Yeah, there's a very fluid relationship with Impact in AEW.
Oh yeah. So the last guy on my list is Jeff Hardy.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I would really love to see him and his brother back together.
I'm
not even necessarily as a tag team. Like with the angle they've got going on right now with Matt Hardy, just make him one of the crew.
I don't know. I didn't watch Matt Hardy's Big Money Matt run in Impact, so I'm not entirely sure what their relationship was like back then. I'm more familiar with like the Broken Hardy universe stuff.
Yeah, that's what I remember from their time in Impact. So I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to see them bring that back.
Yeah, I wanted them. I want them in the same company together. I mean, WWE just kind of is just like, and here's Jeff Hardy. And
yeah. It's just like he's just kind of one of the guys they have. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so yeah, those are the. Oh, you know what? Before we, those are our 5 male wrestlers from WWE we want to see in AEW. Dave actually gave us a list of folks that he wants to see. His top 5 WWE male wrestlers that he wants to see in AEW. He's got one on his list that is on ours, and that is Kevin Owens.
Mm-hmm.
His others are Cesaro.
I mean, yeah. Cesaro, I feel like would be given a better chance in almost any company.
Yeah, really. The next one on his list is Cedric Alexander.
I really like Cedric Alexander. I think they did reunite him with the Hurt Business in WWE, so like that was like that's a good little like area for him to be in that company. But the second that they're done with him in that group again, I'd love to see him in some really fun matches.
Yeah, I'd like to see him anywhere other than WWE. His next one is Sami Zayn.
I would like to see Sami Zayn return to. I don't know. He's one of the weird ones that's actually managed to do well within the last couple of years of WWE by turning heel. But I would like to see him kind of like return to his mat-based earlier work, you know?
I'd kind of like to see him as El Generico again.
I'm curious if that would work in 2021. Like there is a little bit of element of it's like, oh, he's not actually a Mexican wrestler.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know that they would use that gimmick again.
Probably not. But the last one on his list is Ricochet.
Poor Ricochet.
Yeah,
they keep putting him in like the 24/7 championship picture, and it's just with a guy that good in the ring. I understand he's not the best talker in the world, but he literally does things that no one else can do. And he's just kind of, I feel like he's one of those guys that like all the hype that was going around him when he was in New Japan, you know, his match with Will Ospreay, like those were like highlight reel matches. Mm-hmm. And then he went to Lucha Underground, which was cool, but then they had that weird deal where basically all these wrestlers were stuck and they couldn't be used anywhere because of like the Lucha Underground deal. So like he couldn't appear anywhere else. It just seems like he's a guy whose like momentum has been stalled because like then he was doing well in NXT, then they called him up too soon to the main roster and squashed him again down there. It's just over and over again. They've not used that guy to the best of his abilities.
All right, so that is it for us tonight, and our top 5 wrestlers, male wrestlers we'd like to see in AEW. I think next week we're going to do female wrestlers we'd like to see in AEW.
Yeah.
And then sometime after that, we're probably going to do our top 5 wrestlers we'd like to see in the G1 Climax.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But, you know, the Climax isn't over until the end of October, so we got plenty of time to hit that one up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is it for us tonight. If you want to catch us on social media, we are on Twitter at Around the Ring OK. I'm at Otter272, and you are Juiceface Killa.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for tuning in to this episode, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.